The station had been abandoned for decades, yet it didn't feel empty. Rusted rails stretched into the darkness, vanishing under layers of overgrown weeds. The clock above the main platform was frozen at 3:47, hands perfectly still, as if time itself had surrendered to the station. The air was heavy, carrying the faint smell of iron, rain-soaked wood, and something faintly sweet, almost like smoke lingering from a fire long gone. I stepped onto the platform. The boards groaned beneath my weight, echoing through the cavernous station. The wind whispered along the tracks, carrying faint sounds, train whistles, distant footsteps, the soft murmur of voices, but the station was supposed to be deserted. The ticket booth glass was cracked, cobwebs stretched across the counter, and faded signs hung at odd angles. I reached out to touch one of the windows, and my reflection stared back, not quite right. The station behind me seemed to ripple, as if the world itself was distorted here. I moved down the platform, flashlight sweeping the area. The benches were covered in dust, newspapers yellowed and scattered across the floor. A suitcase lay abandoned, its lock rusted, but when I bent to inspect it, it clicked open by itself. Empty. Yet a faint warmth seemed to seep from its interior, chilling my hands as I stepped back. Then I heard it. A distant rumble, soft at first, growing louder. I froze. A train. Impossible, the tracks were overgrown, the engines rusted. But the sound continued, rhythmic and deliberate, echoing off the walls, bouncing between the platforms. Footsteps joined the sound, faint but distinct, as if someone, or something, was walking just ahead, pacing with the phantom train. I followed the sound, moving cautiously along the main platform. The wind shifted, carrying a whisper, "It's time, don't be late." A door at the end of the platform creaked open. I shone my flashlight. The waiting room was empty. Yet the chairs moved slightly, shifting as though invisible passengers had just risen. Newspapers fluttered without wind. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. The station was alive, but in a way I couldn't understand. I stepped inside. The clocks were everywhere, some hanging from the ceiling, others mounted on walls. All were frozen at 3:47. My own wristwatch ticked normally, but it felt wrong, like I was outside the rhythm of the station. Every tick of my watch sounded loud, harsh, in contrast to the silence and stillness surrounding me. A sudden metallic clang echoed through the building. I spun around. Doors along the platform slammed shut, then slowly creaked open again. Each movement was deliberate, measured, almost as if the station itself had a pulse. Shadows darted between the beams, fleeting glimpses of forms that weren't quite human. I moved down a hallway leading to the office. Old schedules were posted on the walls, times and trains long gone. Yet the board flickered faintly, numbers shifting, arrivals and departures that would never happen, trains that had vanished decades ago. I felt dizzy, the sensation of time slipping, twisting. Footsteps echoed behind me. I whipped around. Empty. Just the shadows stretching along the walls. The station seemed to fold in on itself, corridors lengthening, rooms appearing where none should exist. The ceiling above me groaned. The wind carried whispers again, urgent and fragmented. "Wait, they'll come, don't leave." I reached the platform again. My flashlight illuminated the tracks. A faint shimmer appeared along the rails, like a heat wave on a summer road. Shapes began to form, train cars, old and rusted, appearing and disappearing like a mirage. Windows glowed faintly, silhouettes moving inside. The station wasn't just haunted, it was trapped in a moment that repeated endlessly, like a film stuck on a single frame. I turned to leave, but the station seemed to shift. Doors I had passed earlier were gone. Walls had moved. The exit was farther than it should have been. My pulse raced. The train whistle blew softly this time, from all directions at once. Footsteps echoed again, closer, faster, pacing the phantom rails. I realized then, the station was not only alive, it was aware of me. Every movement I made, every step I took, seemed anticipated. The echoes of the past, the passengers, the conductors, the trains themselves, were still here, playing out their roles, waiting for anyone who dared enter. The whispers turned into words now, clear and chilling. Time doesn't move, not for us, not for you, stay. I backed away from the tracks. The phantom train shimmered again, closer this time. The air grew colder, heavy with the presence of the unseen. Shadows stretched across the platform like reaching hands, and the doors of the waiting room began to slam repeatedly, as if calling me, teasing me, warning me. I knew then I had crossed a threshold. The abandoned station wasn't just a relic of the past. It was a trap, a place where time had frozen, and the echoes of those long gone replayed endlessly. And now, I was part of its story. The platform seemed longer now, stretching into darkness I hadn't noticed before. Every step I took echoed unnaturally, bouncing off walls and abandoned ticket booths. The train whistle blew again, louder this time, and I could feel the vibration under my feet. But no train was coming, at least, not any train I recognized. The shadows moved differently now. Not just along the walls, but across the floor, rising like smoke and curling around the empty benches. I shone my flashlight, catching glimpses of figures in old uniforms, carrying lanterns that cast no light, yet their faces were clear, pale, hollow-eyed, grinning faintly as if amused by my intrusion. The clocks everywhere ticked differently. Some spun backward, some forward, others skipped wildly. My own watch ticked normally, yet it felt wrong, disconnected from the rhythm of the station. Each tick of my watch was painfully loud against the silence and distorted time of the abandoned station. I wandered into the waiting room. Chairs shifted slightly with every step I took, newspapers fluttered without a breeze, and the glass of the old ticket counters rattled. A door at the far end of the hall slowly opened, revealing a narrow hallway I hadn't noticed before. I moved toward it. As I entered, the air grew heavier. The temperature dropped sharply, my breath visible in the beam of my flashlight. Shadows danced along the walls, sometimes forming humanoid shapes, sometimes twisting into something else, something unrecognizable. Footsteps echoed around me, but they weren't mine. They were faster, lighter, always following, never reaching. I reached an office. Old schedules, faded and yellowed, lined the walls. Trains that had long ceased to exist blinked faintly on the boards, arrivals, departures, delays, but the times made no sense. Trains from decades past and future appeared simultaneously. I felt dizzy, disoriented. Time was fractured here, bent around the station like water around rocks. A faint rustle came from the far corner. My flashlight beam caught movement. An old conductor's hat lifted slightly, but no one was visible. Another rustle. A figure appeared briefly by the door, wearing a uniform from the 1930s, face blurred but grinning. It stepped toward me, but vanished before I could focus. The whispers returned, layering over the echo of phantom footsteps. They never left. Time never moves. Stay. I stumbled back onto the platform. The phantom train shimmered again, closer now. I could see its cars, decayed and worn, but somehow moving as if held in a frozen loop. Windows glowed faintly. Inside, silhouettes shifted, faces blank or grinning in ways that defied human anatomy. The train made no sound except the ghostly rumble of its approach. Doors along the platform moved violently now, swinging open and slamming shut repeatedly. Some revealed stairways descending into darkness. Others opened into hallways I had already passed, yet they were different, twisted, longer, distorted, impossible. The station reshaped itself constantly, keeping me off balance, disoriented, and terrified. I tried to leave, retracing my steps toward the station's exit, but the building had changed. Walls shifted. Corridors elongated. Doors appeared where none existed moments ago. The exit seemed farther than it should have been. Every attempt to leave brought me back to the same platform, the same phantom train, the same frozen clocks. The shadows intensified. They moved with purpose now, clustering near doors and along the tracks. One approached, a conductor, face obscured, holding a lantern that emitted no light. It pointed toward a door, whispering in a voice both near and far, "Time stands still, you can't leave, join us." My flashlight flickered. The shadows surged closer, wrapping around the edges of the room. I realized then that the station was not merely haunted, it was alive, sentient, aware of me. Every footstep, every breath, every heartbeat seemed to be monitored, anticipated, manipulated. I reached a hallway leading to a storage area. Old crates and luggage lay in disarray, covered in dust. As I stepped closer, a suitcase rattled on its own. I jumped back. Then, out of the shadows, a faint figure emerged, a passenger, decades old, standing still as if frozen in time. Its eyes locked onto mine. Its mouth opened slightly, but no sound came. Then it slowly tilted its head, pointing toward the tracks. I turned. The phantom train's cars were closer now, the glow from the windows brighter. Shadows pooled along the rails, rising like smoke, reaching out toward me. The air grew thick, heavy, and oppressive. The station's heartbeat, slamming doors, rusted hinges, whispers, and distant train whistles, pounded in my ears. I knew then I had to confront whatever was holding this place in time. To leave, I had to face it. Every instinct screamed to run, but the station would not let me go so easily. I took a deep breath and stepped toward the nearest door, toward the unknown force keeping time frozen. I stepped onto the platform again, the phantom train looming ahead. Its cars glimmered faintly in the moonlight that filtered through broken windows. Shadows stretched along the rails, twisting and writhing like living smoke. The air was icy and thick, making each breath a struggle. The station's heartbeat was all around me, doors slamming, footsteps echoing, whispers layering into one continuous, chilling hum. The frozen clocks above every platform ticked simultaneously for the first time, but the sound was wrong, distorted, slower than reality, dragging time into a strange, thick sludge. My own watch ticked normally, but it felt alien, disconnected. I realized the station didn't just trap people, it trapped time itself. Every second outside passed, but inside it was eternal. From the train, a shadowy figure emerged, a conductor with hollow eyes, face obscured by decades of dust and decay. He extended a hand toward me. The whispers intensified, "Step aboard, be part of the schedule, never leave." I hesitated. The air vibrated with anticipation, the train seemed to breathe, its engine rattling with ghostly power. Every instinct screamed to run, but the station had been pulling at me since I arrived. It wanted me to experience its timeless nightmare, to join its eternal audience. I took a step closer. The shadow raised a lantern that emitted no light, and the surrounding shadows recoiled slightly, revealing glimpses of other passengers, figures frozen in time, trapped in mid-motion, staring blankly from the train windows. Their eyes followed me, pleading and warning simultaneously. Then I noticed it, a small, glowing panel near the tracks, like an old control box. It pulsed faintly. I didn't understand why, but I knew instinctively, this was the key to escaping. I ran toward it, the conductor and shadows surging after me, doors along the station slamming violently, threatening to trap me forever. My fingers closed around the box. A single lever, rusted but intact, glowed in my hand. I pulled it. The station shuddered violently. The phantom train wavered, flickered, then froze. Time itself trembled. Shadows shrieked silently, convulsing as the mansion-like heartbeat of the station faltered. The frozen clocks began spinning backward, then forward, then backward again, warping like molten metal. Doors stopped moving. Shadows collapsed into themselves. The whispers faded into silence. For a moment, the station was still, not abandoned, not haunted, just gone. I stumbled back onto the platform. The tracks were empty. No phantom train. No figures in the windows. The station seemed ordinary again, silent, decayed, but no longer alive. I looked up at the main clock. It ticked normally now. 3:48. 1 minute had passed, but to me, it had felt like hours. I didn't wait to see if it would start again. I ran across the overgrown platform, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. The wind carried only the faint sound of leaves rustling. The echoes of time were gone. When I finally reached the road leading away, I looked back. The station sat silently, empty, unthreatening, but I knew better. Somewhere inside, a pulse lingered, faint but real, waiting for the next soul to wander too close, the next curiosity to disturb its eternal watch. Even now, days later, I feel the station's pull. Clocks in my house sometimes flicker. Shadows in the corner of my vision twitch unexpectedly. I can still hear the faint rumble of a phantom train late at night. Time had marked me. The station's memory had touched me, and a small part of me will never leave. So, if you ever find yourself near an abandoned train station with rusted rails and frozen clocks, don't linger. Don't wander onto the platform. Listen for whispers, for footsteps, for the faint hiss of a train that will never arrive. The station is patient. Time may seem normal outside, but inside, it stands still, waiting. If this story gave you chills, like, share, and subscribe for more abandoned places, haunted stations, and stories where time itself refuses to move. Each tale is real in its own way, and the echoes, they never truly end.